women. My enemy is the white people, not Viet Congs or Chinese or Japanese. You my opposer when I want freedom. You my opposer when I want justice. You my opposer when I want equality. You won't even stand up for me in America for my religious beliefs, and you want me to go somewhere and fight, but you won't even stand up for me here at home.
While the war raged on in Vietnam, Muhammad Ali believed that the real fight was not overseas, but rather at home in the United States, fighting for the rights of oppressed minorities. He received both overwhelming support and violent backlash for his actions. Muhammad Ali was already seen as an American icon after winning gold during the 1960s Summer Olympics in Rome at only 18 years of age. Ali was never one to shy away from conflict, and he always felt the need to make his voice heard. This fame and fearlessness to speak his opinion is part of what turned him into a lightning rod when taking a stand against the Vietnam War. As the war escalated, the increase in American lives lost began to cause controversy and disagreement regarding the war. Muhammad Ali was one of those in opposition and refused induction into the United States military when his name was called on April 28, 1967. He took great personal risks during his stand, and through it clearly established himself as a civil rights activist and an anti-draft symbol, while continually expressing his commitment to the Nation of Islam.
I think he was right up there as a civil rights icon, a different kind of a leader, but one that was revered nonetheless for his positions.
Muhammad Ali took a principled stand by refusing to serve in the Vietnam War in the name of protesting racial inequality. Ali's stand immediately stirred public controversy as he generated inspiration and backlash while becoming a symbol of opposition to the Vietnam War. The draft discriminated against the less fortunate by giving educated whites office jobs while giving the minorities the gruesome fighting jobs. 4 out of 5 soldiers were from lower class families in the United States. The government targeted poorer and younger citizens for the sole reason that they would not resist. Furthermore, the country felt this was unfair because some of those drafted couldn't vote, but they could die for the United States. Additionally, draft dodging was a significant problem, and the government had a system where the rich man's son went to college and the poor man's son went to war. Choosing to dodge the draft would hang over the heads of individuals, which would constantly stir public controversy, both then and now. Muhammad Ali used his popularity as a boxer to make his opinions heard, which ultimately aided him in his transition to become a civil rights activist. His deliberate refusal into the military carried heavy penalties. Ali was quoted as saying, "If the war was going to bring freedom and equality to 22 million of my people, they wouldn't have to draft me. I'd join tomorrow." The overall support for the war declined as American citizens began to realize the horrors of Vietnam. In 1961, Ali joined the Nation of Islam. The Nation of Islam was perceived by some as a racist and communist group. Although Ali was recognized as a member of the group, he hid his membership from the public. The organization was led by Elijah Muhammad, who acknowledged faith as a vehicle to promote black separatism. Malcolm X, a minister and advocate for black rights, influenced Ali's decision to join the group. Malcolm X explains how Ali's ideas spread far beyond the world of boxing by saying he captured the imagination and support of the entire dark world. After the monumental fight with Sonny Liston, Ali announced to the world that he would change from his slave name, Cassius Clay, to Muhammad Ali, and was now officially part of the Nation of Islam.
David Susskind would like to ask you some questions. David?
Well, I don't know where to begin. I find nothing amusing or interesting or tolerable about this man. He's a disgrace to his country, his race, and what he laughingly describes as his profession.
Many citizens, especially within the white community, disagreed with Ali's conversion to Islam, changing of his name, and his decisions to speak out so boldly regarding politics. People were especially afraid of Islam because it was uncommon and the general public knew little about it.
I think he was already revered for his accomplishments both in the ring and out. So there was a clear division of opinion about him.
Some disliked his stand because they believe it promoted white hatred and black egotism.
Well, I think that he's hurting, the morale of a lot of young Negro soldiers over in Vietnam. And the tragedy to me is that Cassius has made millions of dollars off of the American public. And now he's not willing to show his appreciation to a country that is giving him, in my view, a fantastic opportunity.
Despite the criticism, Ali's words resonated well with some people, such as Arthur Ashe, an African-American tennis player turned activist who said Ali was admired by a lot of the leaders of the civil rights movement who were sometimes even a bit jealous of the following he had. Other famed African-American athletes like Bill Russell, Jim Brown, and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar advised Muhammad Ali to go to Vietnam, arguing that he would be able to keep his heavyweight title and that it would be better than jail time. The media failed to recognize his significance outside of boxing, and Ali often used his televised interviews with close friend and ABC sportscaster Howard Cosell to advocate for his cause. Howard supported him, but often wondered how long ABC would back him. On April 28, 1967, Ali, whose name was called at the Armed Forces Examination and Entrance Station in Houston, Texas, where he voiced his conscientious objector claim. In the hours following his stand, the World Boxing Association suspended his boxing license, stripped him of his heavyweight title, and barred him from boxing across the nation. Additionally, the United States government confiscated his passport. Ali risked losing his heavyweight title, Olympic medal, and missing out on his prime fighting years, to which he said, "I have been warned that to take such a stand would cost me millions of dollars."
I think he did lose a lot in that he was banned from boxing, and that was his prime time physically, and he was willing to give up his career, even go to jail for his beliefs.
Ali had several financial obligations despite being robbed of his main source of income. He was expected to pay alimony to his former wife. Also, Ali was financially responsible for his new wife and 4 children. After taking his monumental stand against the draft, Ali, since he was unable to box, devoted his time to expressing his political views and spoke to audiences, especially students, across the nation. The same emerging support that was sweeping America to oppose the war also caused citizens to back Ali. During his time away from boxing, Ali started to grow into his role as a civil rights leader. He began his tour across the country with little experience in conveying emotions and ideas through speeches. Ali grew both as a public speaker, but more importantly as a role model for the civil rights movement, all while inspiring the American population. Muhammad Ali's relationship with other civil rights activists was volatile, especially with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. At first, Dr. King was not fond of Ali because of his affiliation with the Nation of Islam. Despite their differences, Dr. King and Ali developed a special bond, which was formed through similar hatred that was showered over them. Dr. King too decided to speak in protest of the war. In April of 1967, Dr. King orchestrated an anti-Vietnam War rally in New York, which aimed to defend Ali's stance. Over 3,000 people attended it, and Dr. King coined it Beyond Vietnam.
The promises of the Great Society have been shot down on the battlefield of Vietnam, making the poor, white and Negro, bear the heaviest burdens both at the front and at home.
The Great Society, developed by President Johnson, planned on decreasing the wealth gap, stronger environmental protections, and several reforms to create a more equal society. Funds for the Great Society were siphoned away to finance the war. Following the tremendous support for Ali in 1970, the New York Supreme Court reissued his boxing license, allowing him to box in all 50 states. Later that year, the Supreme Court overturned Ali's convictions for draft evasion. On March 8, 1971, Muhammad Ali fought Joe Frazier in an attempt to regain his heavyweight title in a fight that was deemed the fight of the century. This fight was more than just 2 boxers in a ring. It represented the views of the American people on the Vietnam War. Due to his stand against the draft, Muhammad Ali had the support of the anti-war movement, whereas Joe Frazier was backed by the pro-war group. This was because those who disagreed with Ali's stand wanted to see him fail on a national level. Ali's courageous stand would have an endless impact on the draft process, as well as the voice of the people of America. Such a large impact that during the 1968 Summer Olympics, gold medalist Tommy Smith and bronze medalist John Carlos raised their fists on the podium to protest against segregation in the United States. That same year, thousands of protesters lined the streets of Chicago during the Democratic National Convention to voice their disapproval for both the war and the draft. Anti-war actions like these grew so powerful that they forced leaders in America to reevaluate their commitment to the Vietnam War. Ted Kennedy respected the fact that he never backed down from his beliefs and that he took the consequences of refusing induction. Anyone with that wide of an audience will have an impact when they take a stand. Ali risked his professional boxing career, putting his morals ahead of his future, and openly opposed social inequality in the United States. Muhammad Ali evolved from an American boxing legend to an iconic civil rights leader before ultimately becoming respected as someone that stood up for what they believed in.
Across the world, billions of people know Muhammad Ali as a brave, compassionate, and charming man. And the American people are proud to call Muhammad Ali one of our own.